Tarek and I had been talking about it for a long time, and then I was at lunch with someone from the network, and she was telling me that these competition shows are doing so well right now. And so I was like, what do you think if it was a show, you know, me versus Tarek in some sort of a flipping competition? And then it just like quickly like grew from there because she was like, oh yeah, everyone would want that. And so then I talked to Tarek and Heather, and it was like full speed ahead. At first I wasn't sure like what that looked like. Was it me versus Tarek and Heather? Was it me versus Tarek? Like, so it was just a concept. And then ultimately they were like, well, we want to do it together. And at the time I was with Josh. So I was like, okay, it made sense to bring him on. Otherwise like me versus them could be kind of weird. So then that's how it ended up into a couple situation. So there's a lot going into the show. The first episode and the last episode are 2 hours long. Okay. So that's very long. Flip or Flop used to be 30 minutes. So it's a whole dynamic. Like it's going to be how the process started, you know, our feelings about it, establishing rules, establishing what this looks like, establishing competition, talking about how much we're going to spend here, and then finding the house. And that was a whole problem. And then all the steps that go into trying to separate a house room by room in order to have competitions. Like there is a lot. It's high stakes, it's high design, it's emotional, it's funny, it's family. It's like, it's very real too. So it's all the things. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's easier to film with someone who don't have to go home with them. Like, it's not usually a good idea to film with a spouse. I already knew that, so I don't know. Anyways, I feel like now that's really ingrained in me. But yeah, it's much easier to film together, you know, funny, fun, competition, whatever it is, and then bye. Like, see you next film day. Tarek is very easy to film with. I'll give him that. Like, he just gets it. I think it's not easy to just hop on camera, right? And I mean, we could be a lot of things. We could be fighting, but still when the cameras turn on, we will be totally fine. And you will never know that there's an issue, which there's that. So that part is easy. I think he gets more in his own head than I do. And like, I'm always, you know, on stuff I'm saying on camera, most of it's just, I know what I'm doing for a certain reason. It's not even necessarily real, but we used to get in arguments about that like later on at night. Like, oh, you picked this material and it cost this. I'm like, I did that for camera. I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, time to make dinner. Like, move on. Josh is very hard to film with. Josh is way stuck in his own head. And like I said, Tarek just gets it. He just didn't get it. So he would like always get upset with me. Like, oh my gosh, you did this or that. And I'm like, don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just making a TV show. That was real hard. So ultimately it was better that he left episode 1 because the show would have sucked. Yeah, Ant knows what he's doing on camera. He's been on camera for a long time. He's a showman. Like he gets it. He gets all the things. I feel like he has a bigger on-camera personality than I do. And I mean, he's easy to shoot with too. Like everything came to head a few years ago and we had an incident on the sports court and we talked it out after that and we sat down together and we had a truce. Like, let's stop. This is ridiculous. You know, we ultimately, of course, it's all about the kids, and Braden had to have appendix surgery and there was a lot going on. So I feel like there's so many things that happened and then all of a sudden it was like, it blew up. And then after that, we were able to 100% come together, speak calmly and normally and all express our feelings. And since then we've been totally fine. I think that Tarek and I have been fine more than we have not been fine. I think what shows up in the media, obviously, is just our times we're not fine. But like 90% of the time we've been fine. It's just everyone thinks we're always not fine, if that makes any sense. Like him and I, his parents got divorced and they set a good example as far as like, they do the holidays together, they do birthdays. I mean, even when Tarek and I were 2 months split up, we still did Braden's first birthday and the world didn't even know, not the world, whatever. No one even knew that we weren't together. But we were able to come together, do a birthday party, you know, for the kids. And so we just get that part for us ultimately, like it's so important to us. So we've always been mostly fine. Okay. God, no. No, absolutely no jealousy. I'm so happy for them and they make a great couple. And honestly, he's become a better man. But my whole thing that I was worried about, I've never shot with her. Like, what's it going to be like to shoot with her? Me and Tarek have a playful banter. So I'm like, is she going to be jealous? Is she not going to like this? I was more thinking about how I need to be respectful. But right away, it was so easy. Like, she's actually very easy to film with. And the three of us create something that's it's pretty funny. And it is fun. I can feel how fun it is when I'm shooting it, so I know it's going to come across on camera. She's not jealous of me in the aspect that she thinks, like, oh, me and Tarek want to be back together ever. So it doesn't, because that's not there, it just flows. I think they, like, my kids, I think, thought that we filmed together this whole time. They don't watch it. They're, like, in their own little bubbles of friends and sports, and I had Taylor sit down with me and watch an edit, and she was like, oh, that's actually really good. But overall, they just, like, we don't even talk about this stuff at home. Yeah. Taylor's for sure team mom. Braden's confused. Braden's like, oh, dad started flipping way before you. I was like, Braden? Mommy and daddy started flipping together. So Braden's probably choose dad. Well, again, at first, I didn't think Josh was going to be on the show. That was not my idea. I was even fine me versus Tarek and Heather and like my team. But he acted like he wanted to do this. But ultimately, when we started filming, if I would just like laugh at Tarek, I would get the silent treatment for like a week. So it made it complicated. Made it not fun. Luckily, that was very short-lived that this whole thing went down with us having to film together. I think we shot 2 scenes together. Tarek loves to be teased. Like, I know when Tarek's in a bad mood, like when I used to film Flip or Flop with him, if you just tease him, it just lightens him up. And so that's kind of what we're doing now. And oh my God, it's hilarious. And he loves it. Oh, he loves it. Tarek and I are used to filming together. We filmed 10 seasons of a show together, 10 times. We filmed like 150 episodes. This is, I mean, by the end, it's just like, it's like clockwork. Like, we know each other, we know how we film. So, I mean, if we were gonna butt heads, I feel like we would already know that was gonna happen and talk about it before being on camera. It's, because the episodes are longer, you're gonna get a lot more personality, a lot more, just the scenes breathe more, if that makes sense. Like, you're gonna get more design, you're gonna get more competition, you're gonna get more conversations. Everything just flows. It's not as like rushed. I had been talking to Tarek about problems that Josh and I had been having for minimum probably 12 months. And so he was well aware what was happening. And even going into the show, because I was nervous about it, because the show was a big deal to me and I was really excited about it, Tarek did say, if you guys split up, and we're filming it, you just make it part of the story. So anyways, they knew. And the night that we split up, I called Tarek and I told him what was going on. And so, I mean, they were well aware. You'll see on camera that I tell him on camera, but he already knew. You know, when you see a divorce, it's like, oh my gosh, well, how did that happen? Well, for me, in the back burner, it had been happening for 18 months, right? And so for 12 months, I'd been really struggling. So they're supportive, but they already knew it was coming and it wasn't a shock. So even Tarek told me, like, who cares what anyone thinks? You know, who cares if you've gone through 3 divorces? Like, the kids love you. You're successful. You're sweet. You're nice. You're like, you know. So it just became that, like, I had to put myself over the show. I would say no matter what, any situation that put me and Tarek together, Josh said he felt like he was an outsider in it. But again, Tarek and I had filmed together forever. We have the kids. And ultimately, like, somebody that had more confidence will be able to look at that and say, yeah, of course, this is my wife. But yes, she does this for TV. She did this when I met her. She was filming with Tarek when I met her. Like, part of that, there's a rationale there that didn't quite make sense to me, that you know what you signed up for. And ultimately, like, I am your wife and I'm choosing you, but you were choosing to make my life harder over insecurities. So it's not that the show contributed, it probably just like sped it up. I was never not going to continue it. This is not Josh's show. I mean, no one's even going to miss it. He's not in it. No offense, but like, I've been doing this forever. This is just, you know, everyone's watching me grow into this and do these things. Josh is not a TV host. He's not a house flipper. He's not a designer. Like, he was just my husband in it. So, no. There's definitely some very emotional scenes. I'm not nervous. It's just way different than anything I've ever shot for television. It's very real. It's very raw. The episode 1 gets a little deep, and then after that, it's like the comeback, and then it gets more fun again. There's a lot of funny things, but I think when the 3 of us get together, because we don't shoot together all the time, right? There's one particular scene where Tarek gets an advantage because I have to ask for more time, and I tell him that he has 10 seconds to run through the house. And Heather can't come. And I know him so well that I was like, oh my gosh, I already know what he's going to do. He's going to be worried about the time. He's not even going to be looking around. He's going to be in his head counting to 10. And I just called it. I told the crew before. I was like, watch, that's what he's going to do. So he like runs to the front door. He's like yelling 10, 9, 8. And he's like spinning around like a crazy person. And he throws himself out the door. And Heather's like, what'd you see? He's like, I don't remember anything. It was freaking hilarious. And her reaction to it, I mean, you got to watch it. But it was so funny. No, I'm terrified of men. Taking a little break. Just spending time with girlfriends. kids. Me and Taylor are going to New York on a mom-daughter trip in a couple weeks. Super excited about that. Just like, yeah, just doing me. Oh, they have to have their own thing. And they have to be really busy. And like, this is mandatory. They have to have their own thing that they're proud of. And have a life. Not like jump onto mine and, okay.
Got it.